we will go ahead and get started and welcome everybody. This is crazy how many folks are interested in RPA. We love the fact that this is truly an interagency briefing. We love the fact that you are here and you decided to join us today. Thanks for joining us. And we have this is the best briefing ever. You're not going to believe this, Manish. Chris from HUD says, I see some good examples and applications. I think we'll talk about that a little bit, won't we?
Yes.
And Aaron from the Census, I learned something. Just one thing is what Aaron, that's the best briefing ever. You just learned one thing.
Not necessarily about RPA, but yeah.
That's right. You can learn something. You learned about Commodore 64s and Gateway 2000s from Wyoming, from Larry Richards. That's what you learned. Laurie, accountability of processing subjects is automated. Love it. Love that. We will talk a little bit about how you can automate things with folks, right? Come on. And you're muted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be talking about that.
Yep. And Kiora from State can be kept engaged throughout the session. No making people into a coma. Manish, got that?
Yeah, I'll do my stand-up comedy in between. No.
There you go. All right. He'll be here all week. And I think this is Michelle at IHS is in here twice. Come away with better understanding of RPA. Discuss automation of access and elevated privileges. Love that. Enoch, great name, by the way, from USIS. Discuss security concerns of running unattended bots. That's a big issue, right? Unattended bots, making sure those things are secure. Conrad from CMS, explain the myths concerning worker concerns. They will be replaced by bots. Wow, that is a big deal, right, Kamal?
Yes, it is a big deal. I can actually go into that right now, if you allow me, Dave.
Absolutely.
So myths concerning worker concerns that they will be replaced. I just want to ask the audience a question. So we just recently did a planning session with one of our clients, that is CMS, and one of the bots they wanted to put together was looking at the address entered by the applicant and making sure that the address all over the United States, that the address is correct. Does anyone from the audience want to work on something like that? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to automate the mundane, really detailed work so that the people who otherwise would have done that are actually talking to the with their actual audience, which are the citizens for CMS. So where is our time best used and valued is where RPA is going. Let the machine do the work that it can do best and let the humans do work they can do best.
That's right. Humans working on things that only humans can work on. And nobody wants to do that mundane stuff anyway. So there you go. So Andrew, VA, follow-up training. Yes, we can certainly. I think that's a great idea, by the way. I don't know what you have on your GSA contract, but doing training on this would be great. Russell from HUD. I have a clear understanding of where RPA is headed. Love that. Roger from DHS. I have concrete steps to make this happen. I know what expertise I need to develop, recruit, contract to start using RPAs. Roger, boy, are you in the right place. Concrete steps. I'm not sure we're going to dive into exact concrete steps, but I tell you one thing. You just mentioned CMS, right? So one of the things that CMS did for you was they sent you a list, right? Right, Kamal?
Yeah, they sent us, well, go ahead, Como. They sent us a list of 30 odd potential processes to change. We took out about half of them and realized that they weren't actually business processes that had to be changed. And the other half we consolidated in about 8 topics. Some of them were duplicates and some of them could be merged into one process.
So that's one way you can get started, right?
So that's you start with, and if you are not at the planning stage, then look at the processes, have someone come in and do some process engineering, because this is also a very good time to re-engineer your processes that are bottlenecks and can be changed before you actually put a bot on a bottleneck. That's not a good idea ever.
A bot on a bottleneck. I hadn't heard that one yet. That's a winner. All right. So Maya from FDA, I heard about robotic processing. I learned about robotic and how I can benefit PMs if I could get that out. So absolutely love that. So please address. Here's what we got. Kamal and Manish. Angie from the VA. Are pro developers required, or would citizen developers be reasonable strategy for developing RPA bots? Great question. I think we'll talk a little bit about that, right?
Yep, we will talk about it.
All right. And Samson from Census, can you give a demonstration of RPA in action? Probably not today, but I'll tell you one thing they can do. You can certainly follow that up, because we will talk about, for John from SEC, case studies and examples, right, guys?
Yes.
Lots of them. Lots
of those. All are those federal examples, by the way?
Yes, they are. A couple of them are commercial, but lots of federal examples as well. So in the capacity of a prime or a sub.
Gotcha. So all these are case studies that involve the government in some form or fashion. All right. So Chris from HUD, most powerful systems integrating data, sharing, updated capabilities, etc. Man, that's too crazy of a question for me. Manish, you want to throw it? What are we talking about with Chris from HUD? What's your thought?
Sure. We'll talk about how we do analytics on when we do RPA, so that we can keep improving processes and look at what processes should be automated first.
Love it. And Adam from NIST, how is RPA different than automation? I know we're going to talk about that. For example, Ansible Tower for creating server instances is automation, but is it RPA?
Well, typically the thing is system automation, like automatically building a server, is generally not looked at as RPA. But if you've got a human element in it, like if there's a step where something has to be done by a human element and you get that automated, then that becomes RPA.
All right. We're going to get into nuts and bolts of that. Min, provide a demo, real life scenarios or unattended bots, including workflow, credentials, data handling, queues, governance. You definitely have to have a meeting after this with Min, because that's the whole ball of wax right there. So I don't know. We'll get to it this hour. And Roger from DHS, what level of technical skills are needed to maintain RPAs? What programming languages are needed to tie it all together? Roger, you definitely have to get together after this, because there's some details that we're not going to go into right there. But Roger, I'll guarantee you, schedule a little bit of time, just like they did with CMS, and good things happen. Tyrese from NGA, what training will be available in the future for government professionals to get them over the learning curve? I think that makes sense. We'll certainly talk about the potential for that, continuing the conversation, at least, Tyrese. And Brenda from FEMA would like to automate the entire process as an applicant. Oh, love that. I think you've done a little bit of work in there, haven't you, Komal?
This is actually a case study that we
That's a case study today. That's a softball right there. Mm-hmm. So there you go. For briefing docs in the session, docs, you get this in the chat. You have the presentation, you have presidential memoranda and the maturity life cycle, so that you guys can take a look at that. If it's your first briefing ever, and you've never been on Zoom before, can't imagine that's the case anymore. However, if you just look at that little doodah in the middle and you can drag that back and forth, make us bigger and smaller. And if you want to see us side by side, go right up to the top and you can do that. As far as what we got here, we got 119 people here. So as a result, we're going to do it this way. All the docs and things like that, sharing your first computer and where you're from, that goes into the chat. And if you would like ask any questions, hopefully we have answers here, but you can raise your hand and you can pop it in the Q&A. And if you don't want everybody and their mother to know about it, you send it to manish.kara. Is that how you say that? Kara?
Yes, manish.kara.
Kara at 6etech.com, and we'll pop that up. So if you need to call or email him directly, that is who you're going to reach. This guy right here. And you're not going to believe this, Manish, but this event is not affiliated or endorsed by GSA or any agency. GSA makes us say these things. An audience for information purposes only. All participation in this briefing is voluntary and engaged by you. Government personnel is not an indication. That's new term. Indication or endorsement or commitment to purchase from any vendor, including 6E. And that's what enables us to be able to open up polls like this, so that you can actually answer this as government personnel without violating any other situations. All right, so why are you here? Trying to understand the need for robotic process automation. We're reviewing areas where RPA can be used. Tell you what, that's what just happened with CMS last time. We're implementing RPA and what best practices. We have an RPA specific issue, and you can answer as many as you like, by the way. that you need to address. I'm worried it will take my job. We already addressed that one. So hopefully you're not worried about that anymore. Or my boss made me come. You telling me there's no Weisenheimers here that are going to pick my boss made me come? I don't know. I don't know, Manish. All right, there we go. We got one at least.
Yeah. Yeah, that was me. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, oh my goodness. There you go. One. All right. So what are we going to be talking about today while you're filling that out? We're going to be talking about, I'm going to give you intros into 6E Technologies just a minute, because they're doing work as prime, as subs, and they know RPA, and that's why they're here. And then we're going to get into RPA versus IA. What does that mean? What is IA? Introducing new terms. What does that mean? Somebody going to answer that? IA?
It will get answered in the
It will
presentation.
get, yeah, it'll
All
get
right.
answered.
Fine then. I'm not going to answer that right now, apparently. All right. So, and then what were the industry trends? What's happened in the IA landscape in the government? We'll give you some examples of best practices and use cases, right? And talking about some of the roadblocks, because there are pieces that happen from time to time, right? Right, guys?
Absolutely.
And how do you mitigate those roadblocks? Because if all we're going to do is talk about how you get the roadblocks, what good is that? All right, we're going to give another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We got the 79. Can we get there's 80? Boom, that's it. Here was what we got. We have 3 people. Their boss made them come. I can't believe that was the only 3. And that's so we have a bunch of folks here that just looking to understand it. We love that, don't we? Love that.
Yep.
And then they're looking at areas where they can use it, 39%, and implementing the best practice. Love it, love it. They have 5 folks that have a specific requirement. We know there's a bunch of people that have it because they came in asking good questions on the way in, weren't they?
Absolutely. Very good questions. Very good questions.
All right. So tell us a little bit about 6E Technologies, how you guys got started. I know it's 2003. That's a good while. I'm coming up on 20.
Yes, coming up on 20 years. Yeah. So we started off as an ERP company doing implementation on large enterprise systems, got into data analytics, taking that data and making sense out of it. And 10 years down the road, so back in 2014, 15 timeframe, we realized that creating all these siloed systems is not the best way to connect these systems, because if these systems don't talk to each other, we cannot bring the efficiencies. Right. By itself, a system is efficient, but when you talk about multiple ERP systems, then you are back to inefficiencies because of technology. And that's how RPA came into our practice, where we thought we got our clients to a point where the enterprise is it has all the ERP systems behind as a backbone. And Manish will go through that slide with you guys. But bringing those efficiencies needed automation on top of the existing system. So that's how we started the RPA practice. We are, as you can see, our vision is reliable, enduring systems for current and future generations. That's the key word here. We know that we have future generations joining our workforce now who will say, what do you mean this is not on mobile? Are you kidding me? This is not on mobile. I cannot fill this form on my iPad. Are you kidding me? So we will start hearing those phrases from our new recruits, and or some of us are already hearing these from our new recruits. So
a lot of us are hearing that already.
Yes. So we have to build enduring systems that will work for future. You just can't be thinking in today's terms. So that said, we are certified in ISO. We are all these things are, let's move to the next. It's about our audience today. And right. I will talk about two seconds for myself. I have 24 years of technology experience working on very large enterprise systems and understanding business processes to a point that I realized that, you know what, without automation, we will not be able to compete with the rest of the world, because think about what Japan is doing. Think about what Asia is doing. We really, really need to catch up. As developed as we are, the commercial world has moved really fast, and in government, we're still catching up. So Manish, you can introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Manish Kara. I have been with 6E Tech for about few months now, but I've known Komal for about 4 or 5 years. So I guess it was 4E Tech back then, but I've seen it grow up to 6E Tech since then. And I have about 30 years experience. I started off as a chemical engineer and I worked in a number of fields. I made the mistake of telling my boss what was wrong with his computer system, and he made me go fix it. And I ended up in computer science after that. So I've got background in the pharmaceutical industry, done some work with insurance industry and stuff like that. And you'll see that in my use cases that I'm all over the place there. I've been working in government for the last 20 years, specifically mostly in the DOT, USDA, and a couple of other agencies, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, Space Command, stuff
Love
like
it.
that.
Love it. Just a little bit of experience here, ladies and gentlemen. And we have a couple folks, Derek and Neha, both. Intelligent automation is what IA is. So that's we're going to be talking about the difference between those and what RPA is, right? So we're going to go right. You want to jump in on this slide or you want to hop to the next one?
We can hop to the next one. So think of it, robotics process automation, RPA, is a little bit different than intelligent automation. So the way I differentiate between, and the industry also differentiates between the two, is RPA is no code, low code, off the shelf platform that actually helps you automate mundane tasks. The intelligent automation, on the other hand, is in automation that grabs the data from as a feedback loop from what it's learning from the environment and then becomes intelligent as the time goes. And the basic difference between the two is RPA is process-based, whereas IA is data-based. So if you're not collecting data, you can continue using RPA and not have to make a bot more intelligent. But if you want to make the bot more intelligent, then you have to start collecting the data and have the bot learn from that data and make changes to the process it's performing. I want to tell everyone, there was a big news 2 months ago about Google. This person who sort of whistleblowed and said, "Oh, the system at Google is becoming self-aware because all the data being collected and it's getting awareness." I want to warn everyone here, that's just not possible. We're not there yet. I don't know in 50 years down the road, but we're not there yet. Don't worry about it.
We've all seen Terminator and we've all seen iRobot. So we know where it's going. I'm just kidding.
But we're not there. We are not there yet. That's all. Yeah, don't worry about that part yet.
Don't worry about that. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, not yet anyway. So with this definition, we'll just have a little bit of fun. Can we have our poll, Dave?
Absolutely. This is the poll. The next poll is, we're having a little bit of fun. Pick the examples of intelligent automation from this list. How about self-driving vehicles? Netflix suggesting a show for you. How about, and you can pick as many as you want, right?
Yep.
So using your filling your taxes, using TurboTax, getting directions for your favorite restaurant, or Roomba, cleaning your home. And how many folks have Roombas? We have like a Roomba knockoff, which is really pretty cool, actually, because it runs around. It's noisy, though. Like 4 o'clock in the morning when that thing gins up, it's noisy.
I've got a more interesting question. How many people have pets that like to sit on the Roomba as it's going around?
It depends on the size of your pet, I guess. All right. So we do have one thing we can ask this while this happens. Have you seen RPA implementations impacted by cyber requirements? Great question, Teresa Thompson.
Yes, we have.
Yes, we have. We have seen that. And you might want to take a question offline if you have any other additional things about that, Teresa. And does 6E Technologies offer classes for RPA education and certifications? I think you should. I don't know that you do, but I think you should.
Yeah, we should. You
should. The answer, Leroy, not yet, apparently. But keep pay close attention because a change to the GSA schedule that they have is coming up. And Carla's from Woodlawn, Maryland, not far from where I am. So you in Woodstock, you climb that hill going into there. So let's go ahead and work through this. We have 66 of the people, so 59% participated so far. 67.
Very nice. Very
Here
nice.
we go. We're going to go ahead and just share this result. So let us know, where did we go wrong? Which ones are intelligent automation and which ones aren't?
So getting directions for your favorite restaurant truly is not intelligent automation, except when you don't follow the route that GPS is suggesting. So if you do change your route arbitrarily, then it gets the feedback loop and puts you another, reroute you. So that's the only intelligence it has. Otherwise, it's not intelligent. But otherwise, using TurboTax is intelligent. Netflix, absolutely intelligent because it knows what you're watching and what kind of shows you like. Roomba cleaning, not as much, because if it gets stuck, it intelligently cannot find where it is and go back to its dock. And self-driving vehicles are definitely intelligent, is definitely intelligent automation. So think about the difference I said. If it is collecting data from its surrounding and creating a feedback loop, it is intelligent. Otherwise, it's not.
Otherwise, even if Netflix is saying that you should watch Dumb and Dumber, that's still intelligent. I'm sorry.
Well, you must have watched something that is telling you to watch Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, I'll be here all week. All right, here we go. So why should we care about intelligent automation? Walk us through why we care about this.
Let's go. So automation provides cost savings. That goes without saying. The example I gave early on was looking through the addresses and comparing it with USPS. Do you really want to do that work? When you get hundreds of applications on a daily basis in a case management system, for example. So you saved time, which is equivalent to money. That brings me to the next point, which is humans can be put on high value work. Bots don't take off. They don't take vacation. They can work 24/7 by 365. Isn't that cool? It offers accuracy as long as you're programming it correctly. If you program it wrong, it's going to do the wrong work. So quality can be maintained as long as you are programming it correctly or coding it correctly or low coding it correctly, whatever you want to call it. And you can reduce the business costs for important tasks to be done, ensure traceability. Now think about it. Every time a bot is doing something, every step of the way is being recorded. So auditability increases in your overall landscape, and it improves the service times for your clients and boosts efficiencies. And as I said earlier on, efficiency, this is, when you are getting on an RPA journey, this is a great time to look into, are there any bottlenecks in your existing processes, and should we remove those bottlenecks before we put a bot on a bottleneck? So
I love it.
Yes, let's go to the next slide.
Absolutely.
And by the way, everyone is talking about M1921. Dave, just to let you know, there is an extension to 2023. We are hearing about that. We have not received any communication as of yet from our partners about M1921. It is a memorandum by NARA that you have to digitize your records. So this is how do you digitize your record? There is so much of automation need in digitizing your records and making them searchable. That is very, very important. So just digitizing your record is not going to solve the entire purpose. You should be able to search like you do in your file cabinets, go to this record number, this. So keeping the metadata, keeping searchable documents will be very important, because this is a requirement that is coming as an executive order. We can go to the next slide. This is
going. There you are.
Yes. So this is the current deadline. As I said, we are hearing some extension, but not anything official as of yet. We were talking to NRC last week. There is some extension, but we are not very sure. So we are not changing our slide as of yet. So, there is a lot of work going on by the agencies that are a little bit mature on ERM side, or very mature on ERM side. For example, NRC, who have been doing this this for about 15, 20 years. So they have a very mature program.
Yep.
So something to learn from NRC. Let's go to next slide. This is where Manish comes in. Manish, off to you.
All right, thank you. So everyone is familiar with the people, process, technology part of this. And the process is the middle layer here, and it's where I start. RPA has robotic process automation in it. So the processes, some of the places in the federal government I've seen they can be grouped into are, you've got the financial and procurement, internal customer support, any system updates, human digital workflow. So once you get the processes put in place and you go through the planning, the assessment, implementing, deploying those processes at the same time, when you get to implementation and deployment, you're looking at what are the systems that are going to be supported underneath it, what are the technologies you're going to use, and to make sure that your people are supported in terms of the training that you need to do. And I know a couple of people mentioned that. What are the training that people need to do so that they understand where these RPA processes fall, not only how they work, but should they be part of our customer service department, our legal department, HR, finance, and operations. And as you can see, there's a number of different areas that the government uses, whether it's regulatory filings, identity verification, digitization, project closeout. And we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail in some of our use cases. But I just wanted to give you an overview of how we look at it. With the process is great, but you've got the people above it who have to be trained in it and the right technologies underneath it. Next slide. Okay, so in terms of cost-saving metrics, the GSA estimated that we would save $3 billion a year if we just did a 1% increase in productivity in our customer civilian agencies.
That's 1%.
Yep, that's 1%, and that's a cost savings of $150 million an hour across the government. So that's basically $41,000 every minute. And we also know in terms of worker training, with the graying of the government, as they say, 2.4 million jobs are going to have to be filled by 2028, and that's just 6 years out at this point. And of course, 78% of leaders in the government are worried about that aging force. And in terms of quality, 84% of quality costs the GSA has found are caused by manual errors. It's something that I refer to from my help desk days as picnic problems.
Love this. Love
problem
it.
in chair, not in computer. Right? So
everybody get that? Picnic error is problem in the chair, not in the computer. And
so,
sometimes I'm the picnic.
Yes.
There you go.
And so automation will help with quality, will help with worker training, and will help with productivity. And just to give you an idea, it's a 1% increase will save $3 billion. We have commercial clients and we have federal clients, and we have seen an average of between 20 to 30% improvement on some of our commercial clients and federal clients. So the GSA's estimate at 1%, you're saving 41,000 a minute, but the typical improvement we see in our clients is between 20 and 30%.
And now you know why there's a presidential memorandum on this exact subject, right? So
exactly.
And that's what this is about.
What I put here, the commercial industry is 27% increase with IA. If the government was to do the same thing, you'd get $81 billion a year. That's literally like handing a stimulus check to every household of $1,000 a year. You don't even need COVID to make money this way. So, and of course, worker training would save another $10 billion annually over the next 6 years. It's not a lot compared to the deficit, but it's someplace to start. And overall quality cost is reduced by 26%. And you're gonna have to take my word for this, because this is based on a number of analytics I've been doing at a number of our projects. And the 40% development people with 20 people in QA is a project I did for the USDA Food Safety Inspection Services, where we were able to reduce we had a one-to-one team where we had one developer for every QA person, and we were able to reduce the QA team by 25%. was an 8% FTE reduction, but if you looked at it across the government in terms of what they're doing, that's a $16 billion annual savings. So
that is unreal. And oh, by the way, we've done this before with GovBrief for people being here.
Yes.
And so after these, you have the opportunity to be able to continue the conversation, and they take this information and then turn it into, guess what? What you're looking to try to solve.
Yeah.
Imagine that, actually listening to people.
yes.
And here's what you
So-
just mentioned, one about USDA. Let's take them through
Yeah.
this. These are use case studies, right?
Yes, these are use cases. So as Dave mentioned in our first presentation, we had a few use cases, not as many, but based on the questions and answers we got in the last couple of sessions we did, we've added more use cases tailored to what some of the questions people asked us about were. So in this case, the USDA has 2,000 county offices, one in each county, and they spend a lot of their time making sure that when farmers and business owners submit their documents, that they're all correct, right? Taking a cursory look at them, downloading the PDFs, and frequently what they'd have to do is they'd have to go into the PDF to see if everything's filled out the right way, right? So you're opening a PDF, you're comparing it, all that. We built a bot, an RPA, that went in and automatically did that. It would download the document, it would open each document, see that the information was the same, and validate it, and then basically store it. And we would if it was wrong, it would change the name of the file, and if it was right, it would change, say it was the right name, and change it and put the different files in two different directories. Think like a database guy. And so then you only had to go look at the ones that were errors. You didn't have to go validate every document. You just had to go validate the ones that were wrong. And of course, I'd spot check them once in a while in the other directory to make sure it was doing it right. But, you know, it reduced the manual time from 3 to 5 hours to 30 minutes. Now, if you take this, and remember, this is 3 to 5 hours a week, as opposed to 30 minutes a week. You might say, well, that's not a lot. It's 4.5 hours saving, but that's per office. And the USDA has 2,000 of these offices around the country, right? So you're saving 9,000 hours in the space of every week, and 9,000 hours is 4.5 people. Now, if you multiply that by 50 weeks in a year, you just save 225 FTEs.
That is
but then I would add, these FTEs were then deployed to talk to the farmers, because the bots cannot talk to the farmers, right? Exactly. So they were working the value stuff as opposed to working the mundane.
So when the farmer comes in and they have a question, these guys can actually solve it. And I'm actually going to give you a real world example of something maybe they would have found this issue, maybe they would not have found it. But because the county office had time to spend with this farmer, they were able to solve a problem. You had two guys come in and they were complaining about their farm. They were brothers. They were complaining about their farmland, going, his is more than me. This is not what my father had left for us. This person was able to go do the research and found out what had happened was the father's will had said, all the land to the west of the creek goes to this son, and all the land to the east of the creek goes to this son. And when that person went and did the research, the USDA county researcher, he found out that 3 years before, one of the sons had diverted the creek and basically bought himself another 100 acres because he moved the creek.
Wow.
So
I'll bet you didn't expect that from your RPA conversation today. We're diverting the creeks.
Yes.
But I tell you one thing that I really like about, you mentioned this earlier, Kamal, is that everything is auditable. You can see the trail all the way through, and it keeps you compliant and removes those picnic errors from the problems, right? So we humans are the problems. Just saying. Anybody that sits in a chair is part of the problem sometimes, because we have the tendency to make mistakes, and in this instance, the bot can help solve those problems as well, right?
All right, next slide.
About records administration, a bunch of folks were asking
I worked for a
biotech
tech company in Boston. The challenge we had I was dealing with I worked in clinical manufacturing. which means I was manufacturing drug for clinical trials, not for commercial yet. And then these drugs would be given to patients, and the results would go into a database and then were filed with the FDA for to get approval. And as part of that, there were like 1,800 procedures and requirements that need to be captured and basically put in. And we had to follow very specific protocols, had to be supported by specific IoT data. We were pulling data from all the machines, from the bioreactors and fermenters. And when we did this manually, it would take 6 FTEs, 6 months. So that's like a 3-year project for the company, 36 FTE month cost to the company. So that was our challenge. If you go to the next slide, the solution, we implemented an intelligent automation solution, digitized the QA validation procedures. So a single QA person could complete all the information within a day. Also, all the information, Internet of Things coming from bioreactors and the assay machines were automatically uploaded. So we didn't have to do any manual data entry. And furthermore, when the data was submitted, and this is a requirement of the FDA, when we formally submit the data packet to the FDA, it locks our people out of it. Like I dropped the user tables. I know I'm getting into the data side here. We dropped the user tables, so we cannot change the data or do anything. The FDA only has access to that database at that point.
And that's
that's
critical.
That's critical, so that they can go back and check any of the data we submitted for it. Now, if you go to the next slide, the benefit that came out of this is we reduced it from 36 FTE months to 20 FTE months. That's because the assay team, the people who do the lab things, we cut them down by 1 FTE because of processing improvements in RPA and assay approval. The automated operations team, because we could automate it, they were able to go down and gather all the data with 1 FTE in 2 months instead of having 6 in 6 months. And that 16 FTEs saved about $145,000 per filing. And it's not like you have 1 filing per drug. You have like 36 filings per drug spread out over the 6 or 7 years it takes to develop it. So it's a significant amount of money that we were able to save the organization.
Yep. And we'll get to your questions in just a minute. I promise. I see the raised hand. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
All right. Defense pricing and contract. Again, with SAM.gov, the same way, it's similar to what I showed you before. When you submit, and if anyone has worked with SAM.gov and seen how much fun it is, entity registration and all the other stuff, to go in and validate that information is a pain in the ass. That's why we have an RPA that goes in and does it. It checks to make sure that they've completed all the required information, that it's compliant with FAR 52.204-26, which are required to, that their business information is there and everything. And in the 18 months since we deployed it, 99,000 people have used it and leveraged it, and it's basically reduced the work on the government side from 8 to 10 clicks down to 3 clicks. And of course, we used IBM's intelligent automation platform for this one.
And as a disclaimer, we are a sub on with IBM's team.
Yes.
It's a disclaimer here.
So,
love it.
All right.
Another USDA.
Yes. This is one of the interesting ones. So, Hurricane Hugo and Hurricane Michael. I don't know if you guys remember them. So Hurricane Michael, I keep forgetting which one was first, but Hurricane Hugo, I think, came through in 2006, and in 2016 through North Carolina. In 2016, when Hurricane Michael was making its way onshore, or was about to, we saw through our data, because the USDA, the data I was working with, we've got data back to the Dust Bowl from 1932 on. We saw that the trajectory for Michael was going to be almost similar to Hugo 10 years earlier. We realized the devastation that Hugo had caused. We were able to go back and see that 80% of North Carolina's peanut crop was destroyed back then. And so what that meant is 20% of their people made their money and 80% got paid out by insurance, which is, of course, done through RMA, the risk management agency of USDA. We were able to look at this data and see that if this had gone through, we would have predicted similar results. What ended up happening is we came up with a solution, which I presented to the USDA. If they harvested their crops before Hurricane Michael hit, they would get about 65 to 70 cents on the dollar across. So we told all the farmers, harvest your crops that were in the path that we predicted. And that way they got paid 70% from selling the crop. We paid the 30% insurance. And then when it actually hit, there was no crops to lose. And they ended up saving $27 million as it stands, the benefits.
And so that's real dollars, right?
Those
So
are
that's
real
something
dollars.
you
Now-
implemented the process that was awesome.
Yes. Now, you might say, well, this is a data thing in analytics. Where's the RPA in this? The RPA in this was in the back end. It was data governance and data quality. I can garbage in and garbage out with data. This is one of the places that RPA that people don't normally look at. They look at it just processes that humans do. Well, there's a whole data quality and data governance process where cleanup of data, and if something's wrong and it's got to get fixed, and you've got to go to the source system or the technical or business data steward who's responsible for that database. We had an automated process to go in. If someone found a problem, whether it was a user or a DBA or someone, they could do it right from that screen. The RPA would send the information to the source system, and that cleaned up our data. And this was a benefit of the data. We were able to do analysis, which we wouldn't have been able to do if our data had not been as clean as it was. And it was only clean because of the RPA we had done for data governance.
So that's behind the scenes
behind the scenes. Yeah.
usage. Love it, love it. We got a couple more, and then we're gonna
Yes,
get to
I'm going to
questions.
hand it over to my financial expert, Como.
Thanks, Manish. And we will go really quickly. I know we are almost at 11:46 Denver time here. So procurement is one area of automation that we kept hearing about over and over and over again. So if you look at the entire procurement, I'm not talking contract lifecycle management, but procurement itself, once the contract has been finalized, but you can actually do the RFI, RFP, starting from RFI, RFP stage. Everything from that point on is completely capable of being automated, including approvals, in fact, we are teaming with a company, by the way, based out of Seattle. It's a startup. We are teaming with them. They have a capability of actually using AI, using artificial intelligence, and reviewing your contracts. Think about that. That's such a value add. Don't spend hours and hours reviewing the contracts. Use artificial intelligence to do that for you. So vendor management, purchase order, matrix tracking, all of that can be automated. What we have seen with our clients, commercial as well as federal clients, is that they ask for a very specific area that needs to be automated, and we then grow from there. Again, trying to boil the ocean never works for anyone. So we would suggest that if you have anything in the procurement arena that needs to be automated, start from a small piece of it and not try to boil the ocean. We can go to the next slide, Dave.
And real quick, while we're talking about that though, you hit something. First of all, boiling the ocean just can't do it. Number one, but looking for ways to get that quick hit, right? So either a little pilot so that you have proof of concept to be able to take it upstream and say, hey, we want to do this across a broader spectrum. But let's start with something we could show some immediate results using RPA. Always a good idea, especially if you got to sell it upstream, right?
Yeah, we always call them quick wins, high value return on investment. So it's low hanging fruit, but the value is high enough that it gets visibility within your leadership. So accounts payable is one lovely process that I love automating. We have done this for commercial as well as federal clients. This is getting the invoice, reading the invoice through optical character recognition, making sure that the invoice is matching with the purchase order as long as the purchase order is on the invoice, and then doing the full circle invoice payment all the way to the payment batch. All this is a candidate for automation. We love this. In fact, some of the COTS products now have a separate module called invoice automation. Like this is such a need in the industry. Think about thousands and thousands of invoices received by the government offices, and even large clients like billion-dollar clients. Think about the payments they do every month. Having this automated takes away so much of mundane work.
Yep.
So with this, I'm going to hand this off. This is Manisha's favorite use case on DOT.
It is? Okay, yes. So with the DOT, Federal Highway Administration, we do state inspections, or the DOT does. And if I'm sure a lot of you are aware with electric cars and all that, that the 18.5 cent or 17.5 cent tax that you pay on every gallon of gasoline is the money that's used by the Department of Transportation, and it's given to the states in terms of grants. If they're using it for operations, it's at 80-20. If it's capital, it's 90-10. So one of the things with state inspections that the Federal Highway Administration does is they look at the number of accidents and number of inspections the state's done the year before that they report, and the money they get the following year is based on that. And the top 5 states get a larger percentage than the bottom 5 states, and then you have the states in the middle. So one of the things, all that data was coming in manually, it was being validated manually. We automated the process. We created templates that they could fill out. When the data came in, it was automatically routed to the right people if it had to be validated. We built RPAs to check that. So if they reported we had 37 accidents, Arizona reports we had 37 accidents with 3 fatalities last year, our RPA would go validate that against the police reports from the Arizona state troopers to make sure that was accurate. And of course, it became a self-service model. We'd capture the data, and we were able to reduce the FTEs who were doing this validation at the state level from 4 to 2. But the other 2 they did not lose their jobs. They ended up getting assigned to other work, higher value work. They were looking for causality between inspection and accident data and some innovative methods. For example, we realized that if they increased their inspections of the vehicles or increased the when they measured the vehicle's weight on each tire, they were able to correlate that with the number of accidents and basically send down policies, right? Instead of having 115,000 pounds per rear axle, you only allowed to carry 105,000 axle because you were 37% more likely to have an accident if you were higher than 105,000 pounds. So that's what Komal was talking about. You get higher value work, and it actually, because now you have the time to do that, instead of you just shuffling paper and validating data that's been submitted by the government or by the states.
I love it. It's awesome stuff. Hey, can we skip over to the roadblocks? Because I want to make sure we get to the questions. Is that okay?
Sure.
So I want to make sure we do that. I do have a question. Ooh, somebody answered the question. Somebody answered the question for Hilton. All right, fantastic. Well, that's one thing. So what are some of the roadblocks? Because there's a lot of things, people asking a lot of questions already here, and we want to make sure we get those as well. But what are some of the roadblocks you're seeing?
Let's go to, so security this came up in a question as well that we need to be addressed. Having your processes go through a integrity and preservation process is very, very important. So think of a bot as another human being getting into the system. All the security credentials should be used as if a human was logging in. So having all the security measures as if a human would log in should be applied on all the bots. You can keep clicking. We'll go. So lack of training, we got that question as well. Timely initial training and ongoing training schedule for the entire workforce that will be impacted. Change management will become one of the very important pieces of this, because you will have to explain someone, hey, you're no longer going to look at the validity of an address for an applicant. By the way, you will be talking to an applicant and using your time as a human being, not as a bot. Lack of consensus in which process to automate. We run into that a lot. So we always say, pick an area and pick smaller tasks within that area, and then scale up. Don't boil the ocean. Workforce displacement, we have talked about it 1,000 times today itself. Plan ahead. Change management. Prepare your workforce and tell them what they will be used on if if their work is going away. Many times we see that RPA is not even on their radar or on the budget. So what we say is start with initiatives like business process improvement, because that brings in efficiencies, and then find the pockets where that can be, the automation can come in. We have seen lots of RFPs that actually have on the higher side, they have data analytics on the top side, and then RPA is kind of embedded within them. So you have multiple ways to get, skin this cat.
Yep. And I love this. So you don't have to read this because you can download it and read it. But essentially, where are you in your process? That's really the question coming up next for everybody. Where are you in the automation process? You haven't started, task identified, task force created, stakeholders engaged, or complete agency-wide implementation. And I don't want to see any Pinocchioers out there for level 4, because most aren't out there for total, but you might have some of them running, right?
So while everybody is filling this, I want to address one question that was about applicant process that we didn't get to address through the use case, but I think it was from DHS, or I don't remember what organization it came from. But the answer to that person is, we have automated application. I'm taking application as in person who's applying for a job, and this application could be anything. So we consider that as a case management almost. So from ingesting the application, reading the application, comparing it with the job description, and ruling out people who don't actually even qualify for the interview, that is all automated. Then setting up the interview with the hiring manager is all automated. People who can actually give the interview online and record their interview to be submitted is all automated. And then finally, the human comes into loop when they have to make a decision based on who they actually want to talk to, whether they want to bring them into the office for a better fit check or whatever. So from 200 applications, this process brings down 4 or 5 qualified applicants. So this is all possible.
Love it. So I'm going to end this in 3, 2, 1, and we got 50 folks. So here's the results. We have 1 that have completed agency-wide. I'd like to see that.
I would love to see them.
No, it's great. But look at this. This is the general trend, right?
Yeah, it is.
Half the people have not started yet, but it's not too late to start. But yeah,
That's right.
This is what we see typically.
Yeah, so you're not alone. It's all good. And there may be places where you have agency-wide coverage for a particular RPA. Yes, we do see that. And it helps a great deal, as a matter of fact. So we'll stop sharing that. And I'm going to unmute Lamari. Lamari, you there? You had your hand raised real quick, and we'll get into some adoption tests and a couple more questions. Lamari? I'm trying to unmute you. Go ahead and talk if you can, Lamari. I'll be watching your thing. Let's talk about the initial adoption test, and then we'll get into the final Q&A.
Okay, so this
out.
addresses one of Roger's questions. By the way, this is from one of our projects in terms of analytics of where the hours went and stuff. But basically, I look at it as PAID, plan, assess, implement, and deploy, right? You've got to do your planning up front. You know, what's your goal? What's your timeline? What's your budget? What tools you're planning on using? You got to assess the current level of automation, like we did on the last slide. Where are you? What needs to be automated? And then an implementation, usually with a testing with a pilot group to see what works, what doesn't work. And then finally, when you've tested it and everyone's in agreement, you go ahead and deploy it. Now, some of the challenges you're going to find with this are if you have unclear goals and expectations up front, because people are, this is not, RPA is not turning your job into George Jetson, where you press the button 6 times during the day and you're done for the day. It's basically sprockets and I'm dating myself. Process standardization. We have found places where the same process is done differently by 2 different people, right? So one, you got to standardize the process, then you can build an RPA for it. You've got to get buy-in from your IT department and from your management, because from the IT department, they're going to be supporting it after we have exited the building, and buy-in because it's a culture change from your peers and from your management. So that's a real quick thing about some of the steps you'll have to take. And in terms of the resources, which Roger asked, I'd be more than glad to talk to him about. You need more of a business analyst flavor, but depending on what kind of things you're going to automate, you're going to need DBA skills, or you might need other skills depending on what area you're working with. But you definitely need business analysis skills for your people to do RPA.
Awesome. And all right, Lamari, if you want, I have you able to unmute if you want to. As I mentioned earlier, you are not under any obligation to purchase from any vendor, but if you would like to purchase from 6E Technologies, you can, because Stars 3, right? HubZone, Woman-Owned, GSA, you know they're around. Obviously, they have all the right certifications. Yeah. And if you would like to continue the conversation, we're going to make sure you have the ability to do that. And we'll get to the rest of those. First of all, you can choose if you would like to talk with these folks, what you want to talk about, and what is the urgency level. We had a lot of folks that came in. They have something that's immediately budget related for fiscal year 2022. That one obviously gets higher priority so they can get that done. And if it makes sense, and you guys you'll do an initial assessment if you want to, and take it from there. So let us know, let them know what you want to do. We have questions here. Lamari, you can unmute at whenever you want to. You answered the questions. Is that what happened? I saw you typing. All right. So we have, you answered Hilton James. Is that what I saw, Kamal?
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. So Hilton had a question about some specific questions about receiving errors using an RPA system.
So the question for Hilton was, can I reach out, because this is a detailed answer, I want to understand what the issue is before I make any assumption. Can I reach out to Hilton directly? That was my question.
Awesome. And Melody's asking for the slides. Can we pop that link back in there, Zachary, for us for the slides? And Kamal was going back and forth a little bit about the IBM. You didn't choose the IBM platform, the government did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things you were talking about was some of the things that Roger asked about. Demo, real life. So dealing with Ming, let's make sure, Ming, you get some time set up with Kamal and her crew. And then training in the future, that makes sense as well. I love that idea. I think that's a great idea for you guys because you're experts in it. And then automating the full process with FEMA, you can reach out and make sure we schedule some time with Brenda as well. Is that right?
Yeah, Brenda is the one I was responding to on the applicant process. I would reach out to Brenda. Awesome.
Fantastic. We'll make sure you do that. Any other questions or anything else, you can send it directly. Don't send it to that address. Or reach out to Manish. So we can do that. So you recap email by the end of the day, you will get a copy of the presentation along with the handouts that just got popped out there. But if you'll have a copy of the emails, a link to the video. If you need the video, you need to view it again, or you want to pass it on to somebody else in your organization. Love that. And one-to-one meetings. And that's what we're talking about here. And folks talking about RPA, making sure you get what you need, especially if it's super urgent. If not, October's fine, right, guys?
Yes, totally.
Yeah, totally fine. We just want to make sure that if it's urgent, you guys get what you need. And with that, we're going to get you guys out of here with the last questions. I'll pop them open in just a second. But if you have to pop out of here, we're 3 minutes over already. So thank you for joining us, number one. We appreciate you guys at GovBrief. And
Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. And Leroy, you are welcome. Sally, well, you're welcome. So what else we have? Hilton, there you go. Hilton James got like Q1 needs none of the above. Okay, we can do that. Matter of fact, Adam, that's a great suggestion. We will do that in the next one. Love that. All right. So if we have anything else that we have as far as questions, let us know. Otherwise, we'll let you guys get out of here. We're down to 66, which is good. People got what they need and they're getting out. Really appreciate it. Come on, great stuff. And we'll make sure everybody has access to everything they need.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
I got to drop out.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. Great job. See you, Manish.
Bye-bye.